I have Barney at the crib. I have little bags at the crib that I'll hit if I'm bored or something like that. But definitely if I'm hitting a corner, like this has been since like college. If I'm hitting a corner, I'll dip the shoulder, or I'll do a little swim move around it, just a little bit,
Laiatu Latu walking into his kitchen, you dip that shoulder a little bit,
And then I'm spilling stuff everywhere all over.
It is my pleasure here to be welcomed on the Colts Show, presented by Microsoft Surface Copilot Plus PC, by Colts offensive lineman Jalen Travis. Jalen, this is after the first training camp practice of 2026. How does it feel just being back out there, getting back to football?
It feels great, getting back in the rhythm of things, getting back with the guys. I'm excited, to just be around such a special group and, to really work towards something that, we think can be truly great.
Well, you got in a little bit last year.
Yeah.
You started 4 games, I believe it was, got in against Jacksonville. What did you take away from just that little stretch of football you got to play, being the starter at right tackle?
Yeah, I think consistency is key, and I think that was huge for me to prove to both, myself and the organization that, I can be a guy that can step in at this spot and play consistently against some of the better ends in the league. And the teams that we played, down that stretch, really exemplified that for sure.
I mean, your first game as a starter at right tackle, you're playing the Seahawks.
Yeah.
Won the Super Bowl based on having the best defense in the NFL.
Right.
And then you get the Texans to end the season, who had also the best defense in the NFL. I don't know how you differentiate those two. What did you learn from playing like DeMarcus Lawrence, Will Anderson, Trayvon Walker, kind of that gauntlet of edge guys down the stretch there?
Yeah, I mean, you just got to really focus on your own technique. These guys are really good players, get paid a lot of money to beat you. But, I know, and something that I've learned throughout, the course of those games, like if I do what I need to do, I'm very hard to beat. And, you're never going to have a perfect game. And you're going to have those up and down plays, but making sure that you're able to respond against some of those better players is key.
That you mentioned not having a perfect game. That's something I've talked with Coach Sparano about on occasion, is like, hey, it's impossible to throw a perfect game, right? Like in baseball, it happens once every 10 years.
Right.
For you as an offensive lineman, though, what mentality do you have to try to throw that perfect game? And then if you can't, how do you respond to maybe, one play where you get beat so it doesn't turn into 2 or 3? Yeah,
you just have to trust your preparation. I think at the end of the day, if you bust your tail Monday through Saturday, Sunday becomes fun. And you're able to just trust your technique, trust your prep. And when those plays do come where you get beat or, isn't the best play, just being able to come back to the plate and keep swinging. Because games are long and NFL games often ride a wave. And, the team that's able to come back after some of those plays most consistently is typically the team that wins.
For you, you barely played with Daniel Jones last year. I know you got in a little bit in the Miami game toward the end of it when he was in. You were in as the 6th offensive lineman on occasion, but he gets hurt against Jacksonville, and then later in the second quarter, you come in for Braden Smith, who got hurt in that game. Just being back out there with Daniel today, what sort of stands out about the way that he commands this offense?
Yeah, I mean, consistent and clear communication is something that we appreciate on the offensive line, and Daniel is the true captain of that ship. And he makes sure that, we're all on the same page, everything from protections to checks to huddle communication. And that's something that I truly appreciate because it removes, especially as a young player, any ambiguity, when we're out there on the field. So, Daniel is huge when it comes to that.
I mean, that just has to give you kind of a clear mind of like, how to execute your assignment because he's commanding that.
Absolutely. And it was fascinating last year coming in under a guy like Phillip Rivers and then, with some of that communication and then, having a guy with Daniel where there's no drop off has been awesome for me, definitely as a young player.
I mean, I don't know if you've ever looked at these things where it's like this guy played with this guy who played with this guy.
Right.
Like you're like one step away from like LaDainian Tomlinson from having played with Phillip Rivers last
crazy.
year. And like, we're going to look back in like 30 years and it's, you'll have a teammate toward the end of your career who'll be like, man, this guy played with Jalen Travis who played with Phillip Rivers.
That's crazy.
What did you learn from Phil last year though?
I think a lot of it was preparation. I had the privilege of sitting next to him in the team meeting room, which was awesome just to see the diligence in which he approaches the game, the things that he's looking for, especially on the offensive line, coming in with a guy like that on the road at Seattle for my first start and his first start back. But just seeing how fluid in communication that he had, really inspired me for sure.
What stands out to you just about the way that you're coached in that offensive line room? Because like when I've talked to Coach Sparano, He says he coaches everyone in that room the same, whether you are the starter and you're Quentin Nelson and you're an 8-time Pro Bowler, or you're an undrafted free agent trying to make the team.
Right.
How did that level of coaching prepare you to step in and be the best version of yourself as quickly as possible?
Yeah, no, it was awesome. And I think a guy who was in my spot, with the twos last year, Coach Sperano took the time with all of us to watch the film, to get into the weeds of our scout team film, him and Chris Watt. And for me, that was awesome and really aided my development to know that, every single play that I have in practice is still going to be coached up to the best. And that was something that I think helped me come in with 4 or 5 games left in the season and perform the way I did.
In your media on Tuesday, you said something aspirational. You talked about decreasing body fat and increasing muscle mass this offseason.
Right.
I think we all would like to do that. What did you do this offseason to kind of intentionally get yourself ready for the grind of playing 70, 80 snaps a game?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was like, okay, how do I take care of my body? What does my routine and my process look like? And I had the privilege of, not playing a huge role last year early on, so I could really work on that process behind the scenes. And I think this year, going into this season where expectations are high, making sure that I was really able to dial into my process, everything from, my meals to my training regimens, getting a little bit more unique with, Pilates and, even took a salsa class this offseason to work on some of my footwork. So, definitely trying to push the ends of where the margins are to try to figure out what the best version of Jalen can be on the field.
Tell me about the first time you walked into that salsa class.
Oh, my instructor was like 5 foot, and she ended up being my partner for the day. But it was, they're like, okay, like let's work with it. All right. It was very rough the first class, but by the end of it, like I was pretty confident in my ability. Still got some, little stiff hips here and there, but it was definitely a dope experience.
Okay, so you ready to be on Dancing with the Stars then?
Soon enough. I think.
That's a good segue into. I wanted to ask you about playing basketball growing up, because you played AAU with Chet Holmgren and Jalen Suggs.
Yeah.
What did just like playing basketball do for you? And I guess like if you're talking to kids who are trying to get into sports,
right?
Like you were never specialized in one thing. How did that all just maybe benefit you to get you where you are now?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with basketball is that it forces you to be a versatile player. You're never just expected to do one thing. Like no one rarely is ever just a shooter or just a big man who can post up on one side of the block. Basketball forced you to guard every position, or at least how we played it, forced you to post up on different sides of the block, mid-range game, outside game. And for me, that really helped my athleticism to come on a football field and really be able to just shine, especially putting on more strength and more body mass, allowed me to excel in those areas. And I think for youth growing up, it's extremely important, I think, to play multiple sports and really expose your body to these different, modes of athleticism that you're going to have. So when you do choose to specialize later on in your career, your exposure to these different angles and body positions is not, unfamiliar.
I love that. Did anyone ever out-rebound you guys?
No. I took pride in that. I was the enforcer in high school, smooth little 12 and 12 average. So like, I'll take that.
Okay, you'll double every game.
Come on.
Okay, I mean, if you got you and Chet out there,
right?
Come on.
Crazy. We had that AAU team was pretty stacked. I think we had 7 or 8 guys that ended up going Division I for either football or basketball. So those were the good times.
And this is Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Just
through and through.
Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Speaking of Minneapolis, you this offseason you established the Nexus Now Foundation.
Yeah.
Which and you also held a leadership summit in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. Like, what was your motivation behind doing this? What's the purpose of this foundation and the impact you're trying to make with it?
Yeah, so the idea behind Nexus Now is, one, investing in the leaders of tomorrow today. So how can we give those students who are doing all the right things but have outgrown their environments, whether it's because of resources, opportunities, spaces and places that they yet don't know exist? How can we provide some of those, spaces and resources and people and mentors to help them really plant the seed of the vision that they truly can become? So we had the first iteration of, what we hope will grow this summer in the Travis Leadership Summit. So, taking high school captains and high school leaders from, our men's and women's basketball and football programs from across the metro of Minneapolis, and bringing them together for a day full of seminars, to which they went through professional leadership, discussions, financial literacy, ACT and SAT prep. And then towards the end of the day, we brought in an organization called Athletes Committed to Educating Students with about 80 middle schoolers. So for our high schoolers who are learning about leadership throughout the day, had an opportunity to practice some of that in real time with our middle schoolers on the field in a NFL style, combine format.
I mean, is this something you always wanted to do, to like use your platform to give back and in a very specific and I think a very impactful way?
Absolutely. I think, giving back and service is a core part of my identity, and I think is really reflective of my purpose here, God-given. And I think for me, when I talk about giving back, I want it to be something more reflective of my journey, but some of the academic side, the holistic picture to what a player can be, should be. And I want to make sure that even though it's not talked about as much, especially in the aspirations that people have to make it professionally, that, I'm able to provide a space where those discussions can be had and those examples, can be made.
Kind of along those lines, Jalen, I looked at your LinkedIn. It is impressive. I mean, the amount of things you have on your LinkedIn and the amount of things you were involved in during your time at Princeton, even now up to today. How did you learn, though, at Princeton to balance all these things that you're doing and the impact you're making through them with working on your journey to get to where you are now, which is the starting right tackle in the NFL?
100%. It was never perfect. And I think the highs and lows of an environment that's undemanding like Princeton, you really have to understand where your priorities are. And for me, football was always going to be a priority for me. And that was something I was unwilling to sacrifice from. And the dual part of that, it was both my academic and service life. And those were areas where I knew that would fill my cup in order to approach football with the diligence and the energy that I needed to. Yeah. So the more I was able to involve myself with giving back, with helping other people expose themselves to the realities of what a Princeton can be maybe in their future, really helped fill my cup and, allows me to approach the game of football with an energy and ambiance that maybe I wouldn't otherwise be able to.
And that still continues today with what you're doing with Next Is Now, then it's kind of along those same lines, right?
Absolutely. And I think, I was a little aggressive this offseason with my team, making sure that, we're able to start using my platform earlier on in my career to make sure that, that cup is filled for me. So when the dog days of training camp get long, I remember really the impact that I'm doing it for, and the kids a part of, Next Is Now and the Travis Leadership Summit who really gleaned to me for some of that inspiration. And it makes the sucky days a little bit less sucky.
Heck yeah, that is a great way to end it. Jalen Travis, thanks for the time here on the pod.
Thank you, JJ. Appreciate it.
All right, back here on the Colts Show, it's my pleasure to be joined by defensive end Laiatu Latu. Latu, we were just chatting before we kind of started here. I was like, your appearance on the Media Day podcast, you were like my favorite interview that we had out of like the 16 guys who came by the table. So it's good to get you on a full-length podcast here, man.
Yeah, for sure. No, thank you for having me.
So we're kind of in camp right now. What are you just sort of working on now in training camp that maybe you weren't able to get to in like year 1 and year 2 with the Colts?
I mean, for this year 3, going into year 3 for me, like it's just real. I feel like less anxiety. I feel like I know my role. I'm really close with the guys in my room, so like I know it's very like stress-free this year. Not that it was anything bad before, but like just the nerves of coming into the league and stuff like that. But now it's like it just feels like home. I'm here, like meandering around at home. I feel comfortable here.
How does that benefit you then? Of like you're not necessarily worrying about like where you got to be at all times or like what you're doing at all times. You can just kind of it's home. It's comfortable. How does that benefit you then going out here on the practice field?
I mean, shoot, every day is like a flow. I get into a flow state, like where I'm just boom boom here, and like in between times I can like I know what I have time for. If I have time for an ice bath, hot tub, or like to do little things that like benefit me, which is dope.
Can you tell me like what is the difference for you when the pads are on versus the pads are off? Like this, we're taping this after a non-padded practice. This episode's coming out a day. I think it's day 2 of padded practices. What's the difference for you as a defensive end?
Like in terms of on the field?
Yeah, just like what does it feel like?
Shoot, when I get the pads on, I mean, it always takes me back to where I was a little kid putting pads on for the first time. But when I'm on the field, like, I don't know, it just feels like normal. Everything being on, everyone flowing around, everyone with the helmets on and stuff. I mean,
does it feel like football?
It just feels like, it feels like football. It feels like I've been doing this since like 6 years old, 7 years old. So it just feels like a normal thing to me. It's like, all right, this is what we're doing every year.
What's that feeling like as a kid of like putting on the pads for the first time and like then reflecting on it? Now you're in the NFL. You've had success in the NFL. You had 3 interceptions last year. I mean, like you've had success, but now reflecting on like that time when you were 6 putting on the pads for the first time.
It's just crazy how far like, you've come from, just running around, not knowing what to do, looking for people to hit, helmets like bigger than the rest of my body. But like reflecting on it now is just, I got to always give thanks to God and just remember, like there's so many people that played football as a kid, and like just to be able to be here among the greatest players, in the world, and just thinking back like, dang, I really was playing this as a kid, not knowing like how far I'll come.
What's your why then? Like you get like, I mean, camp is a long it's a long process. It can be a grind. The season is a grind. You're playing 17 games, all these snaps. Like, what's the thing that you look back on and motivates you as your why when, things get tough or things get, long and the days are long like that?
For me, what motivates me is it's always been my family, my mom, my brother, and my two little sisters. Those will always come first. But like when I'm out here, like, and you're here every day around everyone, like it's definitely the guys. Like everyone in my D-line group, my whole defense, I'll be seeing them from time to time. We have our little moments where we're laughing and stuff. People on the offense, just like, it's definitely the boys that get me through. Like, because we're all going through it together. We're all, experiencing everything together. It's definitely them.
How do you build that chemistry then? You got a lot of new guys, new faces in that D-line room this year. How do you go about building that chemistry at this point of the year?
I mean, I feel like, and the Colts, like, do a great job of bringing in the right people, dudes who want to work, who want to get better, that are about ball and family and, just being good people. But, I mean, it makes it easy when, like, you're being yourself and people, like, accept that. And, like, you see so many characters in the NFL, like, and in the rooms, like, it's just, it's very appreciative, I
want to go back to your mom a little bit, like, talking about, playing football growing up and the journey you went on to get to this point now. Like, how important was your mom in supporting you and, whether it's driving you to practice or working with you on whatever it might be, like just how important was, has she been to you?
Yeah, her role is like the most important in my life for sure, because she's someone that's never left, she's a single mom for pretty much all my life. Raising 4 kids, including me on her own, going to work, making, stuff work, taking us to school, practice and all that. And when I was actually medically retired, she played a big role in helping me like get more second opinions and ultimately helping me get to UCLA just because of the doctors she reached out to and the people she reached out to. So, I mean, moms are definitely the best, and I definitely really appreciate her and love you, Mom.
Moms are definitely the best. That's great.
Yeah.
So you went to the SAC Summit. I know you've done that a couple of times, but just tell me about that event. Like, I know it's Max Crosby, Von Miller, Cam Jordan, 3 of the best pass rushers of all time. Put it on. Tell me about the event. Like, who's there outside of them? What do you do? What do you work on? And who do you talk to at that type of an event?
So, I mean, it's dope because you get to meet everyone like that maybe you haven't met before, like maybe haven't heard of, and really just get to pick each other's brains. Also, like, it's a big like bonding event too, like where you're just getting to know people, and like then down the line you'll see them after a game or something, remember like the SAC Summit. But like ultimately we're there to we're in the film room watching film with each other, watching Max, Cam, Von's tape. They're explaining certain things, then we're watching little guy I didn't mean that, but we're watching other guys,
like younger guys, right?
Younger guys,
yeah, I saw there like college guys there too.
Literally. There's college guys there and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's just a dope feel to be around people of the same position and really just learning off of Von, Max, Cam, really how to play certain situations, and then taking it to the field where we're doing like drills and stuff like that. So, I mean, definitely a big like learning moment for sure.
I saw something they posted. It was Josh Hines-Allen being like, you never know what's in someone else's brain.
Yeah, you
like,
don't.
I mean, you got like these 3 great guys there, but I wonder, like, if you could even pick something up from, like, a guy who went to Minnesota, who's in college in Minnesota, and he, pops up and talking to him, and you're like, maybe that's interesting. Like, there's so much knowledge there.
Especially when you're on the field, too, and you're watching, like, someone hit, like, a rep, and you notice them do something, you're like, oh, okay, let me ask him about that, And if we do it even over here, like, say, Buck hit something, Key might hit something, you're like, oh, damn, like, what were you thinking right here? Like, it's definitely, like, normal for us to do that.
That level of communication too, like just to figure out that one thing, how many times do you have to rep it then to like actually get it into part of your sort of toolbox?
I mean, instantly as you're like questioning it, you're trying the movement too. And so like they can look at you and see what's wrong. But like, you know, as soon as you're thinking about it, you think about how your body moves and how you can, you know, do the same thing in the certain situations. So, you know, all that's dope.
Do you ever like practice pass rushing moves just like around the house on like a doorway or something?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I have Barney at the crib. I have you know, little bags at the crib that I'll hit if I'm bored or something like that. But definitely if I'm hitting a corner, like this has been since like college. If I'm hitting a corner, I'll dip the shoulder, or I'll like, you know, I'll do a little swim move around it just a little bit, you know.
Laiatu Latu walking into his kitchen, you dip that shoulder a little bit, you know, And
then I'm spilling stuff everywhere all over the kitchen.
What do you do after a game? I think this is something that like not a lot of people see, right? We see what you do before a game a little bit. We see obviously what you do during a game, but like let's say it's a home game, it's 8 o'clock, you're chilling. Like, what are you doing?
Shoot, honestly, if it was a away game, I probably watch some of the film on the plane, and then if I get home, I'll probably honestly hop on the game, see if my boys are on, chill. I'm into anime, so like if I'm into an anime, I'll throw it on, watch it after the game, chill. Really just low key stuff, honestly. Yeah.
You got to like decompress a little bit.
Have to decompress, and being on the game with the boys is probably like one of the best things to decompress.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, you can't like what is that feeling in your body and like your mind? Because like the mental and physical energy to play in an NFL game is something that no one understands unless you've ever done it before.
Honestly, you're dead tired. Like, and you know, God willing, you made it out the game without any injuries. But I mean, you're dead tired. You know, your mind's just been racing for like a couple hours straight, and you know, you're super sore. But like, I don't know, you just want to be home chilling. You know, people got family, stuff like that. Want to be kicking their feet up. I get to sit in my gaming chair and just listen to my boys joke around and stuff. So I mean, it's, you know, I definitely look forward to that.
And that's how you reset then for the rest of the week.
Yeah,
because then you lock right back in Monday when you get back into the facility.
For sure.
All right, I want to end on this. Give me your starting 5 of pregame essentials. What are things or routines or just anything you have to do before you go out and play in an NFL game?
I gotta listen to music.
What are you listening to?
Oh, that's a good question. My music taste has gone everywhere over the years. So like, really it's something that just makes me feel like a serious moment, or like makes me feel like I don't know how to describe it. I love all kinds of music. But music is one. And then another, shoot, I don't know. I don't have many essentials before the game.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's simple then. You don't really need a whole lot.
Just music, and then really just being there with the guys. Like coming here, I thought like you had to be so serious before a game. You know, and some people are like that, you know, and that's, you know, understandable, but like it helps when like the nerves are relaxed in the locker room.
Yeah.
You know, I'm talking to Buck, you know, Grove, we're just sitting there talking about the game, or just, you know, not just so like always like too intense.
Yeah.
And I like that.
That seems like that would probably have more of like a negative effect if you're just like so like, you know, tense like that. Yeah.
I used to be like that as a kid, but then over the years, like, you know, football became like a normal thing. So it's like, okay, this is what I do.
Yeah. You just move up levels and keep going, and that's great. All right, Latu, appreciate your time, man. This is great.
Appreciate you, man.
We will catch you on the podcast again sometime soon.
Hell yeah.
The Colts Show is presented by Microsoft Surface Copilot Plus PC, where every day is game day. Greatness in the NFL starts long before kickoff. It's built in the quiet hours of preparation and the discipline to turn insights into action. The Indianapolis Colts rely on Microsoft Surface Copilot Plus PCs to turn preparation into performance. With real-time AI-powered insights right on the sideline, coaches and players can make smarter, faster decisions when it matters most. From the field to the front office, Microsoft Surface Copilot Plus PCs are transforming how the Indianapolis Colts prepare, strategize, and win. This isn't just about football, it's about unlocking potential wherever the game is played.